Ladies and gentlemen, to present Maria with her Hall of Fame racket and to welcome her into tennis immortality is someone whose epic battles with her helped define a generation of women's tennis and whose friendship has blossomed through mutual respect. Please welcome to the stage 23-time major champion, Serena Williams.
All right, surprise. I know I'm probably the last person you would be expecting to see here tonight, but honestly, a few years ago, I probably would have said the same thing. But here's how it happened. A few months ago, Maria texted me that she needed to talk, and so I thought, uh-oh, what's going in, what's going down? Like, where do I need to jump in? What do I need to do, right? But when I called her, she asked me if I would introduce her into the Hall of Fame. And before she even finished her question, I said yes, loud, immediately, with my whole chest, because of course, it's Maria. I was honored. Now, let's be real. Maria and I were once the fiercest of rivals. We had our differences. To the world, we looked miles and miles apart. But the truth is, we weren't. We wanted the exact same thing at the exact same time, to be the very best. In our sport, only one person can walk away with the trophy. And what's really wrong with wanting to be your best? Nothing. In fact, it's what drove us. That's what made our rival so electric and so iconic. In 2004, when Maria was just 17 years old, she stunned the world and won Wimbledon. To this day, she calls it the highlight of her career. And to this day, I call it one of my hardest losses. The match didn't just make her a champion, it actually made her a star. It launched one of the most talked about and controversial rivals in tennis. For more than a decade and a half, every time we faced each other, the atmosphere shifted. It was thick, the tension was real, the fire was real, and honestly, you can feel it. And, by the way, you could hear it with all Maria's grunting. No, not mine, yours. No. I was just copying you. But behind all that fire, there was something else. Even though we didn't talk about it, maybe we really couldn't back then, we really respected each other immensely. Because to survive at the very top of the sport, you need resilience, you need toughness, and you need to show up every single day, year after year. And Maria did just that. There are only a few players in my career who challenged me to be the very best every single time we stepped out on the court. Maria Sharapova was one of them. Whenever I saw her name next to mine in the draw, I made sure I practiced harder. You know, I made... Okay, I mean, security? I have a heckler here. I focused more and I showed up with my A game because whatever her weakness was the match before, you better believe that was her strength the next time. She was relentless about improving. I remember once running her left and then right and then left and then right and then left again, and she just refused to give in and she went for everything. When the point was over, I finally looked over to see if I had tired her out, but nothing, completely poised. If you didn't know better, you would have thought I was the one doing all the running at that point. And honestly, the next point I probably was. She had this fierce, never give up attitude, never surrender, that always kept you on your toes. And I can't tell you how many times I was in the locker room watching her down a set in a break because I would have to play after her. And instead of warming up for my own match, I would literally just sit down, I would look at my coach and I would say, we're in for a long one. Because Maria would come back every single time. She never quit. She never gave up. Of course, I was mad I had to wait so long. More than once I wanted to tell Maria, just win in straight sets. You know you're gonna win anyway, so just do it already. Why are you torturing us out here? But that was Maria. She was fierce, determined, uncompromising. She made you earn every single point. So let me back up and kind of address a little bit more the elephant in the room. How did we get here? How did I get her number? How did all this happen? How did we go from the Wimbledon finals to this? Me introducing her to the Hall of Fame. Well, here's a short version. And I think we have Anna Wintour to thank for that. Yes, that Anna Wintour. Every year she hosts this little party called the Met Gala. Maybe you've heard of it. It's one of the most intimidating rooms you'll ever be in. Actors, musicians, designers, influencers, the creme de la creme. Everyone is dazzling, and somehow you still feel underdressed. And here's the thing. If you're an athlete, you eventually find other athletes in the room. And because you know each other and you're on the grind year after year, Maria and I found ourselves at the same tables, at the same events, and talking to each other a little bit more. And with no Grand Slams match the next day, our guards were down, and little by little, we started to see each other differently. One year was small talk, another year was real conversation, and then one day it just clicked. This person I spent years battling across the net, might we actually like each other? And we did. One time a mutual friend of ours said, if we had met under different circumstances, we'd be great friends. I'm not gonna tell you, after hours. You know who that was. Why? Why are you asking me this? And they were right. This mystery person was right, that Maria knows. But let's talk about Maria, the player in person. She was, and by the way, is the definition of professionalism. We had a call actually scheduled at 11 o'clock a.m., and she called me at 11 o'clock a.m. It wasn't 11:01, it wasn't 10:59, it was right on time. She's always on time, always focused, always disciplined, right on the dot, always prepared. That's Maria. And when she stepped on the court, she gave absolutely everything she had. It didn't matter if she was playing the world number 1 or the world number 300. She showed up with the same determination every single time. She didn't get caught up in the gossips and the distractions. She wasn't swayed by the headlines. She was there for one reason: to be the best, to win, and to compete. That was Maria. And that's exactly what she became. In 2005, just after 1 year after winning Wimbledon, Maria climbed to world number 1. Think about that, a teenager, less than 18 months removed from her breakthrough, standing on top of the sport. That takes focus, fearlessness, confidence, which Maria has, and unbelievable discipline to rise that fast. She never let go of that standard, and I always admired that. I can. She went on to win Wimbledon, the US Open, the Australian Open, and eventually she mastered the surface that humbled her most, the clay. In fact, I would always tell myself, give 100% like Maria. Focus, focus, focus. If she can do it, you can. Yes, Maria, you were inspiration to me, and without even knowing it, you always inspired me when I went out there, because I knew I could just focus like you, I could do well, and I could win. So thank you so much for that. Maria's journey on clay simply made me better. Maria once famously said she felt like a cow on ice playing on clay. And I'm sorry, but listen, I did play you before once on clay, and you weren't wrong. But here's the difference. Maria did not accept that as a weakness. Quietly behind the scenes, she made it her single most important mission. She turned her greatest vulnerability into her greatest weapon. She took that legendary mental toughness, the same toughness that she showed every opponent, and she pointed it right at the clay until it gave in. And she conquered it, not once but twice. 2 French Open titles. That's who Maria is. Make your weakness your strength. That's her. That's her legacy. And the more I've gotten to know Maria, the more I realize how much we share. Champions actually always have a lot in common. I once asked her, how does she celebrate her wins? And she looked at me and she said, celebrate? What does that even mean? She was always focused on the next goal, the next title, the next challenge, and honestly, that sounded a little too familiar. And when I asked her if she celebrated her retirement, she shot back, "Did you?" We both laughed because no, we both knew that without answering that neither one of us did. Champions do not live in the rearview mirror. We do not look back. We keep going, we keep adapting and thinking about our next win. Champions move forward, champions live in the present. Maria was and is the personification of that. Maria's impact goes far beyond the court. She won 5 Grand Slam titles, as we already know, and that's what we call the career Grand Slam, which is something only a handful of players are able to do. Scroll a little bit, thank you. She became the world number 1 at just 18 years old, something I never did, and she held that spot for 21 weeks in her career. Maria won 36 WTA titles, earned over $38 million in prize money, and spent more than a decade ranked inside of the top 10. She was also an Olympic medalist, winning silver at the 2012 Olympic Games. Well, security, please. And beyond the numbers, Maria was the most recognized and admired athletes on the planet. She was the highest paid female athlete in the world for 11 straight years. And she showed us all how to take excellence on the court and turn it into excellence in business and fashion and branding and everything that she touched. She inspired young girls around the globe and inspired them in the world that if she can do it, they can do it too. She could win on the biggest stages, then they could too, and they could conquer new ones. She changed how women not only approached tennis, but sport and opportunity. She showed us that you can be fierce on the court and strategic off the court and unapologetically yourself the entire time. And she always did it with her head high, proud, strong, classy, and yes, with that signature grunt. And today, her biggest joy isn't only a trophy, it's her son Theodore. And she's taken that same focus, that same fire, and poured it into being a mom, a great mom, steady, calm, and thoughtful. She actually reminds me a lot of Venus, and the more I get to know her, the more I think about the things we share and we can share in the future. Maria's honest, she gets to the point quickly, she's earnest, she's loyal, she's family-oriented, and at her core, she's just a great person. If I didn't know her better, I think she could have been my sister, the yin to my yang, the calm to my storm. So don't be surprised when I'm calling her with all the dramas in my life, because that's what sisters do. So what started as a rivalry turned into an enormous amount of respect. And what grew from respect has turned to friendship. And like I said, champions adjust. Maria didn't just win matches, she built a legacy that will last forever. Last year, I asked Maria to be my tennis ball. And I think this is her way of saying yes. So tonight is my honor as her former rival, her former fan, and now her forever friend, and one of the world's greatest sports heroes of all times and champions, to welcome Maria Sharapova into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
She forgot to give me the trophy. God forbid Serena gives me the trophy. I'll just take it myself. Wow. Whew. I'm a mess. internally. Who would have thought? Serena Williams interviewed me for a full hour to prepare for today's speech. That's when I realized it was really game on. Serena, I thought that maybe today you'd let me win just this once, but you may have won the speech competition, so. I'll never forget that call that was meant to be my interview. We laughed so much, and if I'm being honest, spent most of the time gossiping, and I wish I could tell you what we gossiped about, but we'll save that for later. Later that evening, I received a message from Serena as a follow-up. She says, "One last thing. In your words, how did we get here?" So I thought it would be fitting to answer that today in front of all of you. I want to go back a little bit, or longer than we both probably want to admit. I'll never forget Serena's quote after the Wimbledon final in 2004. It was the New York Times. She said, "She's kind of like me. She doesn't back off. She keeps giving it her all." As an athlete and a competitor, I've always found it hard to admit when other players shared any of my best qualities. When it came to Serena, it was especially difficult because I recognized that she shared many of those qualities, and she capitalized on them as well, if not better than I did. She certainly has the trophies to show us. Serena did more than just sharpen my game. She helped crystallize my sense of identity as a competitor. It's a gift to have someone who motivates you to reach those heights, and I'll forever, forever be grateful for her bringing out the best in me, which she really did. We have always shared a deep mutual respect for and understanding of one another. Our backgrounds are more similar than what meets the eye. We both had fathers with incredible, bordering on unreasonable levels of belief in their young daughters. They both made countless unspoken sacrifice to give us a chance at greatness, and I had personally a front row seat to how wholly dedicated they were to making us into champions. Once we fulfilled that potential, we both knew no other way than to fight our hearts out. We left everything out on the lines of the court, every single match we played. We both hated to lose more than anything on this earth, and we both knew that the other was the biggest obstacle between ourselves and the trophy. That's the root of how we got here. We were cut from the same cloth, but once all was said and done, once the lights dimmed on our careers and they locked the gates behind us, we brought our guards down. I'm grateful, I'm so deeply grateful for you being here for our friendship. This means the world to me more than you'd ever know. Thank you. Thank you so much. To everyone else joining us here in beautiful Newport this weekend, let me start by saying that I'm so humbled to be standing in front of you today, to be inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame alongside the legends of our sports. It's truly the honor of a lifetime. Bob and Mike, congratulations on an exceptional career. If only I had your volleys, my father just would be thrilled. Thrilled. Till this day, he asks, when are you going to serve and volley? I was always excited to navigate this Hall of Fame journey alongside you both, but after getting to know you both in the last few months, I feel even more strongly that it's a privilege to share the stage with you today. Thank you for making it so much fun. A couple of months ago, when I started thinking about how I wanted this weekend to look like, I sent a note to all of my team members from throughout my career, and I expected about half of them to join. Much to my and the organizer's surprise, there was about 95% acceptance rate. And it's really important that I start with a few of those thank yous. Max, you had a little more hair when we first met, didn't you? He confirms. He had more hair. And I apologize. You played a role that was so much more significant than what's written on your resume. You were my shield, the ultimate punching bag, someone who unapologetically said no on my behalf, over and over again. You also had to fire Jimmy Connors, which is a task no one wants to be responsible for. After every match I played, you were the first message I received. And the message was consistently, you are a champion, after every single match. You didn't skip a beat, even on the occasions when I didn't play like one. And on those occasions, Max could usually be found at the French Open waffle stand, which he single-handedly kept in business every single year. Whether I won or lost, he was the first in line to order. When every Frenchman was eating crepes, Max was killing the waffles. And therefore the little belly. Dad, we really did this together, didn't we? I was a little nervous when my dad told me he was going to choose a suit for today without any supervision, but you do. You look good. I approve. It's always a scary thought as a daughter. I am such a lucky girl to have navigated this journey under your wings. When no one believed we could, you always did. You had conviction in your decisions and you never looked back. You were tough. You were tough, and you repeatedly expected me to raise my standards. But along the way, you never forgot your most important role, to be my father. It is a gift I am deeply grateful for. Thank you. To my mom, I know you were too nervous to watch my matches, but I hope you're watching this. Today I'm wearing the very first Tiffany pearls you ever purchased when we earned our big paycheck. You are a true testament to the unspoken lessons you teach me every day. Elegance, kindness, unconditional love, and I love you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm so lucky to call you my best friend. My love, you're next. You have opened my eyes to a world I really didn't know existed. It wasn't easy to break me away from my tunnel vision. You know I had the tunnel vision. But I'm so happy that you pulled me out of that comfort zone. You also taught me that, much to my surprise, a vodka tonic is not shaken. Thank you very much. I drink a lot more these days. And so does someone else in the crowd. You have contributed to one of the greatest gifts of our lives, our little son Theo. I am such a lucky girl to share this future with you, to push each other through all the twists and turns of this thing called life. Thank you. Mauricio, you are the OG. I'll never forget how after the semifinals at Wimbledon, you looked straight at me and said, from now on, put on your horse blinders and only look straight ahead. I never took them off for the rest of my career, and I thank you for that gift. Thomas, winning the French Open together was one of the highlights of my career. When no one believed I could do it, you always, always did. You still feel I could win a couple French Opens. And you also gave Alexander the greatest gift he's ever received, Bjorn Borg underwear. The day they met. Just a little skeptical. Yutaka, You are the kindest soul, the definition of a team player. My favorite Utaka story was when the team took a 2-day break and went to Vegas together. While Sven and Diddy were opening up their beer bottles, Utaka pulled out his humidifier and took a bath. Please never change, Utaka. Cecil, the definition of a hitting partner is one that is tough to describe. The role often falls somewhere between assistant coach and human punching bag. You handled it with such grace. You never ever complained. You were small but mighty. You taught me the art of having to hit another ball, and boy, was that lesson important when we won our French Open together. Thank you. Alex K. Hello. You joined my team during the toughest moment of my career, and you did so with no hesitation. You left the comfort of your home. You said goodbye to your wife in Dallas, and you went all in. I'll try not to take it personally that you were more excited about the message I received from Tiger Woods after that first round at the 2017 US Open than the actual fact that I won the match. And thank you for teaching me the rules of American football, which since I've forgotten, but you know. I do know that the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl while we were working together, and I do still consider myself the lucky charm, so you're welcome. Go Birds, fine. I did it for Alex. Jerome, your work ethic was contagious. Nothing and no one would discourage you. Your brutal honesty was a quality I learned to respect. I remember you once told me, I was out of shape, and I had a little bit of cellulite. And because of that, I got in the best shape of my life and went on to win the French Open. But I still had cellulite, so c'est la vie. Martin, you took on the role of my physio when my body was shattered. You taught me that the body was a product of my habits and discipline. You corrected my biodynamics, my diet, my recovery, and you took no shortcuts in getting me back on track. We listened and reviewed dozens of podcasts on that massage table, and some were better than others. You watched me shed many tears on that table, and you never ever cast judgment. In hindsight, it's the best gift you ever gave me. Thank you. Ricardo, you made me fall back in love with the game of tennis, and even more importantly, the intensity of the process during a time when I didn't have much left in my tank. You and Gaia welcomed me with open arms. My only regret is that we didn't meet sooner. To everyone who has played a role in my journey, including the fans who lived and breathed my career, so many of you around the world, thank you from the bottom of my heart. You believed in me before I had anything to offer in return, and I'm forever grateful for your support. And while I'm not someone who makes a habit of looking backwards, the magnitude of this moment has made me reflect on everything that's led me here and how it can inform of what comes next. Always looking ahead. My journey was a windy one complete with the highest of highs, lowest of lows, and all of the uncertain ground in between. Believe it or not, there's no playbook on how to navigate those twists and turns, on how to be great for the long haul. But if there is any single quality that I can guide you to greatness in the absence of that playbook, I believe it's grit. So much of what shapes the very best happens far from the cameras. Those dewy mornings on the practice courts, the late nights poring over technical film. I dislike that so much. Replaying the critical points in your head over and over again. The fine-tuning repeated until muscle memory finally overrides any hesitation. The world recognizes the trophies, the grand slams, the fanfare, the center court glory, and I'd be lying if I said that stuff didn't matter, because let's be honest, I wouldn't be here without them. But in hindsight, my favorite moments were always the quiet victories. The ones only a few people beyond my inner circle could see. Those small triumphs stacked up and became the foundation that steadied me in moments when everything was on the line. And there's a blank space in my speech. And it's still blank. Oh, technical difficulties. Is this time when I sing? It's in my oh, there we go. Can I see my little bag? I want to make sure that we're on the right side of this. Yeah. I want to make sure we're at the correct place. You know what? Okay, I'm glad I took this out because I'm not on the right place. Through it all, a small, persistent voice urged me forward, even in instances when logic and outside influences would have had me give up. I often leaned into this quiet certainty, which I've since come to recognize as self-conviction, and discovered an inner resilience that allows to doubt and drown out skepticism. This belief gave me the strength I needed to keep moving, to keep reaching, to keep fighting until it was really, really over. Of course, that didn't mean I never came up short, because being human means making mistakes, and sometimes very costly ones. But allowing space for your limitations offers its own kind of strength. It's an accepting imperfection where change really takes shape. It's never about avoiding the hard thing altogether. It's about the way you respond to it. And we're back. Thank you. When I look back at photos or videos of me on the court, it's the one thing I notice: the relentless pursuit of improvement, regardless of any circumstances. That was the true heartbeat of my game. I was never the fastest or the strongest, and I certainly wasn't the best mover, and Max oftentimes reminded me of that. But when you fine-tune your mental fortitude, you can transcend the limits of your body every single time. And my fist pump was the physical expression of that idea. It was less of a celebration than a symbol of persistence. It was rarely for show, occasionally for show, and especially when I played you. Yes. I was like, is she looking now? And it was always a promise to myself. In the moments when matches shifted, when doubts crept in, when the lights felt too bright, and the weight of the moment felt too heavy, that little ritual belonged to me and me alone. It was a reminder that I am both capable of making it happen and will stop at nothing until I do. It was self-conviction and poise balled up into one tight fist. If there's anything to take away from the speech, I hope it's this: embrace the struggles and lean into the hard stuff. Trust your instinct and rely on that resilience. I promise you, you'll surprise yourself. When voices inevitably tell you to ease up, to round your edges, dull your ambition, I hope you can find a way to ignore them. Compete fiercely, raise your standard, set goals that intimidate you, And don't forget to celebrate your victories, no matter how small. When you're facing setbacks, ask a lot of questions and look inside for those answers. And yes, pump that fist, whatever your personal version is, as a reminder of how unstoppable you are. I said it once, and it rings even truer now. In giving my life to tennis, tennis gave me a life. And what a remarkable, remarkable life. And I'm so deeply grateful for it. Thank you.